Samsung has a rich history of producing the default high-end Android smartphone with its S series. I myself have enjoyed the Galaxy S7 Edge massively and still regard it as one of the best Android phones ever made. This then, the Galaxy S22, is many years beyond that device. It packs way more into it than the S7 Edge, with multiple rear cameras and a high refresh rate screen. So with all those features, is the Galaxy S22 worth considering after it's being on the market for 3 months, or should you go for something else? Thanks to Vodafone for providing today's subject matter. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas and this is my review of the Galaxy S22 in 2022, or 3 months later. £700 will get you one of these in its base configuration with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, provided no trade-in. Along with that, you're getting a 6.1-inch 1080p 120Hz AMOLED screen, an Exynos 2200 or Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in the US, and a 3700mAh battery. That is a fairly stacked spec sheet, but I want to point out actually that 3700mAh is the same size as the battery found in the S7 Edge. It's funny how everything kind of changed after the Note 7 fiasco. There's no doubt that this thing is a high-end feeling phone. The use of aluminium and glass is not unique, but the way that Samsung has formed the S22 makes it feel very crisp and very premium. The super thin bezel and small punch hole helps further this feeling. I personally really enjoyed the flat screen as well compared to the curved displays that we see on other devices. This pink colour is also rather striking and one that I would consider if I were to go for an S22. Pink is my favourite colour of course. A couple of sometimes overlooked features that I think are really good on the S22 are the fantastic in-display fingerprint scanner. Seriously, it's very quick and very accurate, works pretty much every time for me, it's superb, and not a lot of those work for me, so it's good that the S22 does. And I've also found that the haptics were very crisp. They might not be as crisp as something like an iPhone, but they're definitely up there, and weirdly I associate Android with not as smooth, crisp haptics. This was really up there and I felt it immediately when inputting my data to of course, initialize the phone. But that display, that thing transcends the outer shell and all those other hardware features, as is the case with most of the Samsung's S models. This 6.1-inch screen form factor is really refreshing. I've heard some people call it compact, so I'm going to throw the tweets up here. It's definitely not compact, it's not like an iPhone mini, but it's smaller than some other smartphones. Maybe it's like a mid-compact. The screen might only be 1080p in resolution, but unless you're a tech freak, you're really not going to be able to tell. It's an adaptive refresh rate as well, meaning that it's not always at 120Hz. This is something that I noticed, that the transition between 60 and 120 wasn't quite as smooth as you'd like, and it's not as sort of seamless as on Apple's promotion on the Pro series of iPhones, but it's pretty decent, and I believe that there is a developer option to allow you to force 120Hz. However, for the general public, I'm sure it will be absolutely fine and you won't notice it. It's just something that I picked up on. The transition was a little bit poor, but other than that, once it's in 120Hz mode, it's very smooth. That said, the performance didn't quite keep up with it. Now, I have the Exynos 2200 version, as is the case with most European markets, and then when you go into the US, you will be getting the Snapdragon, I believe 8 Gen 1. The 8 Gen 1 is a much more capable chip, especially in its graphics performance, where the Exynos doesn't quite match it, and so in games, specifically actually I tested Genshin Impact, I found that it didn't perform actually nearly as well as the previous version, the S21 Ultra, and I'm not sure if maybe that's just a compatibility thing, or maybe they haven't ironed out that bug yet, but it just didn't feel as smooth as that smartphone, which is strange because this is obviously the newer model and technically it should have the better chip. My S21 Ultra did have the Exynos chip as well, so it wasn't even a difference between Snapdragon and Exynos. It just didn't feel quite as smooth, so if you're a bit of a gamer, maybe leave off the S22. It just doesn't feel quite as smooth as other high-end smartphones in its price bracket. However, for day-to-day tasks, looking through social media, taking photos, for all that stuff, it was absolutely as smooth as you'd expect. And I ran the S22 with Android 12 on One UI 4.1. This aesthetically really hasn't changed much since One UI 2, but I don't think that matters because it still looks clean, fresh, and performs well. Samsung is also committed to offering 4 to 5 years of software updates, and given that this has only been out for 3 months, you're able, if you pick one up now, to get that full length essentially of support. So if you are the sort of person to maybe update your phone every 3 or 4 generations, this is absolutely perfect for you. It's one of the main reasons I recommend Samsung to so many people. Battery life is usually a sour note on smaller smartphones, and whilst it's definitely not awful here, it's not winning any awards either. It managed over a day of usage for me, but I have to say most phones do that. I mean, even my 92% battery health iPhone 12 mini lasts me a full day. I got some opinions on Twitter and they happen to find the battery life to be fairly decent, but really not all that good. And if you read any other reviews, you'll find the battery life is one of the weaker points. So if you're a heavier user, maybe consider going with a Plus model that gives you the bigger battery, of course, along with the bigger screen, or something different. Samsung software does a decent job of minimizing, background application usage so that you get better battery life, but it's not the best. I believe Xiaomi is a little bit better and maybe Apple too. So you end up with a battery life that is good if you're not a heavy user, but if you are, you want to go with a different smartphone altogether, I feel. And charging, there's no charger in the box, it's about 25 watts. It's not great, it's usable. And of course you get wireless charging through the glass back, which is a nice to have, but not something that I use personally. So what about the cameras? We've got quite a stacked camera package on the back of the S22. We've got a 50 megapixel main, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 10 megapixel 3x optical zoom, and a 10 megapixel selfie shooter too. That's a nice well-rounded camera package with the same kind of focal lengths as something like the iPhone 12 Pro series, which is much more expensive. Samsung has made some of the best camera packages in the past, and the S22 impresses across all of its focal lengths and modes. There's lots of sharpness and detail with plenty of dynamic range as well. There's a lot of colour in images with Samsung Scene Optimizer on, which is what I've left on due to the thing being its default, and for the review purposes I thought I'd leave it there. That said, I don't think the images are massively oversaturated, it just makes the images look more fun. The quality difference between all three focal lengths isn't massive at social media sizes, and the colours and dynamic range follow over well. This is one of those phones you could use for a professional social media sort of job, and even some video work as well if you utilise lighting and set design really well. I actually really like this camera package, and it's one that I would use. I would definitely buy this phone based on its cameras. It's a good smartphone camera package, giving you all the three focal lengths as well. The video is decent, but it's not sort of iPhone level in terms of stabilization, and I think the dynamic range as well could use some work. There's quite a lot of extra saturation, and of course when you use a smartphone that compresses it a lot, it's not something you can really edit out of very well without running into issues in your editing and coming out with artifacts. But as an overall package, the Galaxy S22 really did surprise me. I was not expecting to like this phone as much as I did. I've always kind of liked the higher end, the Ultras, the Pluses, the Edges smartphones from Samsung in the past, and so going for a base model, it would have been the first one I've touched in a little while now. But it giving you all of those features that you would have expected from a Plus model maybe in the not so distant past, getting that all in a, let's say, mid-compact smartphone package is really intriguing to me, and given that they're going to probably get rid of the mini very soon, it's something that I would consider. If you manage to get it cheap on a used sort of deal, then you're going to be doing great. If you get it brand new, I really don't think you're drawing that short of a straw there. You're still getting a really good set of features, hardware and software, and that support. And of course, if you do buy it brand new, you'll get the warranty as well and the customer support. You get all of that for £700. It's a lot of money these days, but that's still a pretty good deal when you consider the rest of the market. Compare this to, say, the base model iPhone 13, I'm going for the S22 every day of the week. So I want to thank Vodafone for sending out this smartphone to review. It was really fun and actually one that I particularly enjoyed. I will leave their links in the video description along with my social media links in case you want to check me out on Twitter or Instagram. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons for being continually supportive. Thank you so much, guys. It helps the channel out massively. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Peace.